The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
Wrestling to the Max. Monday Night Raw review.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Wrestling to the Max Raw review for March 26th, 2018. And of course, I am Gary Vaughan, and along with me is Mr. Brandon Biskobing.
Hey.
And Brandon, this Raw is leading up to a big week because we've got lots of great things. We're leading up until WrestleMania pretty soon. We're not on our final week, but we're getting there, and things are definitely ramping up. You can tell on this Monday Night Raw. So I know me and you are really excited about getting down to the business that we have at store for us, and of course get into all the great things that do involve Monday Night Raw. But just to let everybody know really quickly here, we of course are part of the W2M Network, this big, beautiful network of podcasts, and of course part of this wonderful website called W2Mnet.com. And we want you guys and gals, if you have never listened to this show before, to go check those things out. The website is, once again, W2Mnet.com, and this is the W2M Network. And make sure you go subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcast from. Maybe it's iTunes, maybe it's iHeartRadio, Stitcher.com. Heck, even all you fans over there at YouTube, make sure you go subscribe and get yourself into that whole business of getting us every single week. Yeah, that's definitely a help. And also, make sure you give our friends over at 411mania.com and LastRollProWrestling.com some love, too. They do a great job, and we support them. They support us. Well, Brandon, this is, of course, like I mentioned before, a big Raw to talk about. It's leading up to the final Raw before WrestleMania, but I'll be honest with you, just before we get into the actual show itself, I kind of felt like this Raw kind of mattered. Just going through it, I was like, wow, they actually made me kind of care about what's going on getting up into WrestleMania.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure I'll talk about it later when we do the overall grade on this, but, certain segments, and I think this is an issue with Raw just in general, but certain segments definitely did make you feel like it mattered, but others kind of just were like, oh, they're just there,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of WB's thing, though, I think, in general. They always try to get you with the highs, and then the lows are kind of really low.
Because their issue is that they really only focus on, like, one, maybe two, maybe at most 3 storylines at a time. This isn't the Attitude Era anymore, where every storyline, every feud feels like it matters. They really only focus on the big guys anymore.
Yeah, you're not wrong about that for sure. Well, you know what? Instead of delaying any further, let's jump into this thing and let's talk about Brock Lesnar. That's right. He is the first thing we see on Monday Night Raw. Well,
you gotta give him the Paul Heyman treatment. The Paul Heyman treatment. Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, see, I can't even do it as close to good as Paul Heyman, excuse me. So I usually don't, but you're right. You got to give it that little oomph to really make it matter. So let's get into this thing, though. Let's talk about what's going on here. We have Brock Lesnar come out, and he gets in the ring, and Paul Heyman, of course, does the talking. And really just honestly, the normal, Paul Heyman thing talks about, how great Brock Lesnar is, and then really harps on Roman Reigns and says he's not going to be here. He was beaten too badly last week by Brock Lesnar, and just, he's not honest to his word. He came out 2 weeks ago and told everyone in the WWE universe that, hey, I'm a part of Monday Night Raw, even if I'm not, announced or I'm not advertised, but guess what? He's not here tonight, so what does that show? Well, doesn't take long before we actually have Roman Reigns appear and come, of course, over the railing, and here he is. He's ready to make his appearance despite the fact that he's not supposed to be here. And he grabs a chair and goes towards Brock Lesnar, but yet he doesn't even get in the ring before Brock Lesnar mows him down. And Brock Lesnar's beatdown starts to take place. Roman gets a little bit here and there, but really this is about Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar even uses the stairs, gets Roman in the ring, and does his business as usual. Beats him down with the chair, beats him with the stairs, and we finally get the end of this with a F5 onto the stairs from Brock to Roman. This is basically Attack 2.0 for Brock Lesnar. I didn't think it was bad. I think Heyman did Heyman, and Brock did Brock.
Yeah, I mean, this was pretty formulaic here, and I will give Heyman and the writers some credit here for kind of calling themselves out here. With Heyman basically saying, "Oh, this is the time where Reigns is supposed to appear, but he's not," and of course, some people I'm sure probably actually believed him, but Reigns does appear after all, and it was your prototypical before a match face off where one tries to get the upper hand on the other, but the other one is able to bounce back and get the upper hand. Not sure where this really leads for next week, because this really felt like something that would normally happen on a go home show with the back and forth, and then Lesnar having the upper hand, which inevitably means through reverse momentum theorem that Reigns is going to win. But this segment, it's kind of what you expected with these two. Nothing really spectacular happened, but a good solid segment here.
Yeah, and you mentioned next week, right? So usually what we have here, especially leading into WrestleMania, we've got a situation where they really want to get that hyped up. They want to have something even more special. This was just kind of a repeat of last week. So I fully expect Roman and Brock to really leave on an impactful note, whether they both get thrown through a barricade together and they just lay themselves out until the camera goes dark at the end of the show, something in that form, or just something out of this world. But they're really gonna heat this thing up even more, I believe. And the reason this thing started the show out was probably to get it hot, but being a repeat, they didn't have to do too much to have it be the finale. It'll be next week before I think this is really going to be what ends the show. So that's probably what we have in store. But they did their thing. I feel good about at least what they're doing so far. It wasn't awful, because trust me, if it was awful, I would love to bury this, because I'm not really stoked about it either. The guy, to be honest with you, Brock Lesnar is going to leave the company most likely, and then Roman's just, still the golden child. So
Yep. Well, I mean, the only upside really for this whole thing is, if Roman gets the title, that we'll get more feuds and more matches with the Universal title, and the Universal title will actually start mattering again. And then hopefully Braun or Balor or Rollins or someone will be able to get the title at some point over the next year.
Exactly. So let's see what takes place.
But, I mean, like you said, nothing spectacular because we saw this last week and whatnot. Not as much because of the whole handcuffed and everything thing. But, we saw this last week. But it was a good, solid way to start off the show.
Yeah, I totally agree. So let's move on to the next thing we have on doc, which is, of course, Nia Jax taking on Mickie James. And, Alexa Bliss is in tow with Mickie, but really, she doesn't have much effect on this match. Nia Jax just goes with the paces with Mickie here, and, Mickie gets a little offense, but really, this is about Nia, and Nia takes care of business and gets the victory here. Alexa tries to get involved, but then she soon turns tail and basically just kind of trots up that ramp because she does not want to have anything to do with Nia Jax before WrestleMania. This wasn't long. There was not a whole lot here. But, I mean, for me, Brandon, it kind of fits the bill. This is not exactly one of the biggest things going to be a part of WrestleMania. Like you mentioned, there's those feuds that don't get all the attention.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this, especially with how this feud has been built and everything, I have a feeling that this is going to be a minute-long squash on the pre-show. but I'm honestly glad, especially with how Nia is being booked lately. I'm honestly glad that they didn't go the prototypical and what I was honestly expecting route in this match of Alexa jumping in mid-match and causing the disqualification, and then Mickey and Alexa rather beating Nia down, double teaming her in the middle of the ring.
Yeah, exactly. And I could see something like that. I'm right there with you. I think they're doing a great job with what's going on with Nia Jax and really trying to build her a little bit here. They're not pushing her way over the top or anything like that and really, throwing her in our faces, but they are doing a good job of subtly building and making that character matter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like in the past, Nia was just supposed to be this big strong woman who's supposed to come out and intimidate the world, but showing some vulnerability, doing a few other things, I think it really has helped, and I think it also makes it feel more real.
The funny thing about it that I still have yet to get, and I hope there are others like me that that agree with me on this, but shouldn't she have the other nickname instead of the nickname that she has currently? The other nickname in that feud of Days Gone By?
Yeah, I guess I could say that.
Should she not be called the immovable object instead of the irresistible force?
I agree with you on that. I really do think that is more. But then again, there are going to be people who and say that's not true because maybe some people do believe she's irresistible force. There's those who are really into Nia. So
True.
I mean, to each his own, and that's fair enough. Trust me, I know some of my personal life who really isn't, and that's cool with me. I mean, hey, to each his own, like I said. So, but yeah, I mean, I think we got what we needed out of that, and of course, next week we may get a little bit more. But I don't think that they're really gonna shove this down our throat and really gonna make this a main. We kind of understand the whole plot of this. We kind of understand what's gonna be I presume, and you just presumed the end result. So.
Yeah.
Let's jump into something else that I kind of find interesting here on this show. They gave us this video package of Ronda Rousey, Triple H, and Stephanie and Kurt Angle, from the signing to some of the other stuff that has taken place with Ronda Rousey here in WWE. And they had Triple H and Stephanie really be the focus of this, where they kind of talked about themselves, kind of talked about their training, talked about, that they do this all the time, and for the fact that Ronda's in their world. This is no longer UFC. This is not judo. This is their world. And so Stephanie feels like she has the upper hand and that Ronda should be intimidated by her, not the other way around. And really just Triple H basically said Kurt Angle is just here to get beat down again like always, and he's stupid. So this was, to me, a really intelligent way of putting this thing all together without actually having to have Triple H and Stephanie in the ring and do their normal shtick and all that. I kind of felt like it was more improved for the fact that we actually have visuals of them working out, getting ready, and we actually had them sitting and just really spilling out their stuff without being in front of a live audience. I dug it. I don't know about you, Brandon.
I mean, I liked it. The whole thing, like, I get what they're trying to say here, and honestly, I hope they kind of use this in the match, a la Vince McMahon. While he wasn't a competitor in this match, but I hope they do kind of, especially with how they did this, with how they were talking. Yes, they did a lot of workout stuff, which, I mean, I wish they would have shown more of them, like, kind of in the ring and doing more wrestling type stuff instead of them trying to look all, like, tough and look like they could actually compete in a legitimate, competition. Because, no one with any semblance of sense knows that, Stephanie in a real fight would get her ever-living you-know-what kicked out of her by Ronda Rousey. But I hope they kind of use this whole thing with what they were talking about in this whole vignette of, we own this place, this is our world, so you have no chance, a la, I forget what pay-per-view it was. maybe you remember, but it was one in '98 where Mankind was facing, I believe, either Undertaker or Rock. And Vince was like either at commentary or a special guest referee, and he kept on switching the stipulation because, he could, because he's Vince McMahon and he owns the company, so he can do whatever he wants. And so, like, it would be kind of funny to see them try to pull kind of stuff like that, where they're like, we own this company, we control the refs, we can do whatever we want, and then like still have Kurt and Ronda somehow come out ahead.
Yeah, and you could see that happen possibly. I mean, there's those thought processes out there that kind of like that. I look at this whole situation and think to myself, what are they going to do for the fact that they are getting into a situation where really, honestly, Triple H likes to win a lot of times at WrestleMania. We all know this. It's been noted very much so in wrestling communities. But, we also have Stephanie out there. And for the fact that we've got Kurt Angle, who people have been wanting to really see in another big match and to see him do something along with somebody that, has not shown anything yet, but Ronda Rousey is a huge name. And this whole mixture has a lot of positives about it, but it also has those negatives, right? There's some of those unknowns, and you just don't know how it's going to work out. And really, those are the technical things. Now, storyline wise, kind of like you're talking about, how can they break it all down? I think there's various things they can do, but at the end of the day, we both know that they've got to have Ronda Rousey coming out looking strong, right?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, there's no reason in even signing her if you've got her coming in and you're just going to kind of say, oh, well, she did a little something and she's not that important. No, they want her to be special. They want her to come out looking dominant. And I think Stephanie's going to get hers, but I think it's going to be something at the end of the day. We all know, win, lose, or draw, Ronda's going to be the star of that match.
I think the way that this is probably going to go is that Triple H and Kurt are going to be in the match for the majority of the match. With Ronda kind of coming in at the end. I mean, this all depends upon how well she's been doing at the Performance Center and everything. Because if she's shown a lot of good things and she's shown that she can actually handle herself in the ring, then maybe they'll give her more stuff. But especially with it being Stephanie too, that I don't think either one of them are really going to get a ton of time in this match, but I definitely think that Ronda will get the pin over Stephanie in this match.
Yeah, I think you're completely right too. Well, since we're talking about actual, in-ring action for Ronda Rousey, let's go ahead and mention a little bit of it because she gets a little here in this show. Later on in the evening, we have Kurt Angle come out and really praise Ronda Rousey, brings her out, and basically, Ronda responds to Stephanie's comments by saying, she may be tough, but she needs to be prepared to have her arm ripped off. So, something we've heard before. But it doesn't take long for them to be interrupted. Absolution comes down, and Paige says that she wants to welcome Ronda to Raw. And, ask her if she has any backup. Ronda says no. And Paige says, well, you could become a fourth member of Absolution. Ronda again says no, and Paige takes a little bit of offense to that and says, well, that was a bad choice, and sends her goons, which is, of course, Sonya Deville, along with, oh my God, I can't believe I forgot her name. Mandy Rose, thank you. Mandy Rose. Sonya Deville tries a cheap shot. Woof, that wasn't a good idea. Ronda takes her down and then goes to take out Mandy Rose's arm. Is going to break it in the arm bar until Kurt Angle talks her out of it. So Absolution wasn't very successful. We did have a little bit of in-ring action for Ronda here, suplex and all that kind of stuff. It's interesting. She still is able to get in there, and she's done this before. We've seen a little bit of action for her. I don't know that she's still comfortable. That's one thing that I've kind of seen.
I mean, she definitely still needs to learn the pro wrestling style and everything. But she can kind of bring her own unique style with, the judo throws and stuff like that into the ring that I think is going to help her, and I think she will be someone to look out for. I don't think she's going to be, like, some others that, have tried to step in the ring and just, haven't been able to change their styles. I think she will be able to handle herself. While it may or may not be, she may not have the time frame yet. I would have liked her, and maybe we'll see it next week. I would like to see a more consistent, give her, a good, it doesn't need to be too long. It needs, give her a minute of, facing off, not directly, don't have her have an actual match, but, have her, beat down someone and actually show what she can do in a pro wrestling sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. That would be nice. Now, I don't think they want to give away too much before they get to WrestleMania, so that may be why we're not seeing a ton from that situation. But I will say you're right. It would be nice to kind of see that take place and to have her involved just a little bit more than she has been. And we, may get that. That may actually happen. So
I mean, the big question mark for her, really, WrestleMania. It's all well and good, Some people are looking forward to it, some people not so much. But the big question in terms of how she will be treated by the, the wrestling community at large is what happens beyond Mania in terms of how often she's around.
Exactly. That is true. I'm, once again, I mean, I think that she's doing what she can at this early stage, and I know I said she didn't look like she was still comfortable. I think it's for the fact that, you can train in the ring behind the scenes all day long and feel good about it because no one's watching you. When it's live TV, totally different story.
Mm-hmm.
When you're going from cutting a promo to putting out what they're asking you to put out there verbally and then getting to physical action, it's a whole different story. So I don't think it's terrible. I don't want people to think that I'm saying, oh gosh, she's off. No, I'm not saying that. You can kind of tell that transition is still coming along. It's not at the point where it needs to be just yet, but it'll get there in time.
I mean, it's not going to be a, automatic, oh, she's a pro.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely think, especially with the fact that she is legitimately, she has been a wrestling fan her whole life, so she kind of knows. I mean, while it's a big difference between watching it and actually doing it, she's watched it enough to where she knows kind of what's expected. So she's able, once she gets more comfortable in doing promos, in doing a pro wrestling match, she will be able to handle herself, I think.
Yeah, I think so too.
But, again, I mean, especially considering the rumors that I saw about what they're thinking about doing next year, they have to keep on top of her big time.
Yeah, and some of the speculations, I don't know if it's what you're talking about here. We keep hearing speculation that Ronda could be the first one to beat Asuka.
Yes. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
and if they do not want to have Ronda Rousey have the Roman Reigns effect, they have to keep her on TV consistently every week and have to have her actually have good matches.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if she is all in for this thing, that means that's going to have to be the case. She's going to have to definitely be out there putting the work in, getting people behind her. All that good stuff is going to have to take place. So we'll continue following that, and you never know. She may surprise us. We all may be looking back a year from now saying, wow, this is awesome. I can't wait. Or we may all be cringing.
Mm-hmm.
So who knows? But what we do know is tonight Asuka had a match, and that match was against, someone no one knows, Jamie Frost. Unless you're an indie fan and you know who she is outside of WWE. I'm not that much of an indie person where I know every skill. Yeah, I don't know Jobber number 5 and the indie name that they are. Paul is usually really good at that because he's definitely really got a close eye on the indie circuit. I'm just not that guy. But yes, Jamie Frost comes out and she does an interview and basically says that, let's be honest, the same thing everybody says. Asuka's not ready for her. And it's like, okay, whatever. So anyway, she gets in the match, gets kicked in the head. 1, 2, 3. Asuka wins. Yay. So, I guess that's a decent win for Asuka. I think this is the best way they have her on TV.
Yeah. Especially if they're gonna keep with this whole thing of, while she's facing the SmackDown Women's Champion at WrestleMania, she's still technically under contract with Raw, so they're keeping her on Raw. This is the best way to kind of keep her strong and say, I'm coming for you, Charlotte, and this is what I can do to you.
Yep, and they can also mention that big matchup for WrestleMania on Raw. So that's the positive thing, that they still have Asuka there. So let's talk about something more important, more interesting. Let's talk about Sasha Banks and Bayley and their situation. And they're in the locker room, and Sasha comes and says, "Hey, what's going on here?" We texted back and forth, and Bayley's, kind of talking, just kind of really just giving her the cold shoulder. And Sasha wants more. So Bayley just kind of breaks it down for her and says, you've been successful, but you've always known I was going to be there. And Sasha kind of takes offense because she goes, "Look, I didn't need you. In the beginning, I made 3-time champion. I really don't need your, help for anything." And then it's really kind of interesting here. This is where it gets hot and heated up when Bayley turns her back, and then Sasha grabs her hair and slams her into the lockers, and the fight ensues. The referees have to get involved and break these two up. This is kind of what we've been wanting to see, the physical part of this feud, right? We've been kind of waiting to see what was happening, and I don't know that we're going to get this at WrestleMania. Brandon, last week we talked about this would probably be a post-WrestleMania feud, but I'm at least glad that we're getting this thing a little bit more heated up.
I'm honestly surprised, though, and kind of, I won't really say disappointed, but, definitely surprised that this happened now. Because, I was expecting it to be a situation where they were still kind of tense, but nothing direct from now until Mania. And then at Mania, we get, one of them eliminating the other. And then, the night after, on the Raw after Mania, that's when it completely blows up. Because this just feels like, now that they have completely separated, we still have next week to see, if anything develops from there. But now, maybe this is kind of what they're doing to overshadow it, so as to, kind of push it to the side after the, after all that happened with it a couple of weeks ago. But now this really kind of overshadows everyone else. Like, this is going to be the big thing going into the Women's Battle Royal. And, after that, after, one eliminates the other, it's going to kind of be like, okay, we know who's going to win and we don't really care.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? I agree with you wholeheartedly on the idea that they really, it was kind of odd, but yet, I guess I dig the fact that we have some of this momentum going into this matchup at WrestleMania, where it's not just about them, right? It's the women's, what is it called? The Women's Classic Rumble, or whatever they're going to call it now.
It's called the Women's Battle Royal now.
Yeah, I can't remember. It was some mouthy thing. Anyway, at least we have some heat between the two that is really strong. It's not subtle. We know they want to rip each other's heads off. And when they get into this Battle Royal, they're going to be out to take the other out of this matchup, right? Because they're going to want to prove a point. And I think maybe that's why they made this happen this early, is that they wanted to heat the thing up. But I once again, I do agree with you. I kind of thought they were going to wait. I thought they were going to stall this thing out and have this match at WrestleMania be the pinnacle of why they really start to hate each other. Yeah. So now that that's not going to happen, I kind of feel like they were looking at the situation with a Royal Rumble for the women, and they thought to themselves, well, we need some things that actually matter when it comes to feuds in this matchup. The people we're putting into this thing are not going to all be out for blood, and we want a little bit of blood and heat. So that's what they're doing.
But honestly, I kind of think it's the exact opposite. I think they're kind of taking the heat out of the Battle Royal as a whole, because this is, honestly, I could see something very Attitude Era-esque happening during this Battle Royal, in which, because, let's think about it. I mean, I think Becky will be in it. Naomi will be in it. Yes.
Yeah, a bunch of NXT women.
Yeah, but no one other than Becky and Naomi, no one really huge will be in it.
Mm-hmm.
So you could very easily eliminate those two kind of early, or have them just kind of sit to the side, and then have Bayley and Sasha eliminate each other, and then or them not even get into the ring or slide out of the ring, and have those two fighting at ringside and fighting into the back as the main storyline of the women's battle royal, and not even really pay attention to the ring.
Yeah, but what you're saying here is all the attention is going to be on them and no one else, and it's going to make this thing just kind of be what it is, and the match is just what it is. But that's the main thing, is Sasha and Bayley, and I get that, and I think that could happen. It could steal the entire match away from everybody else.
Yeah. Well, but that's what I'm saying is unless you're gonna save them for the very end and basically have them have a mini match at the end, once they're eliminated, no one's gonna care.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree with you, and you know what I think is going to happen just right now as we sit here. I don't know what's going to really be with whatever's going to happen next week on Raw. As I sit here, I kind of think to myself, it looks like that they are going to be a little bit overshadowing a lot of the other ladies, and they're probably going to be in competition the whole time. Who threw out the most people, right?
Yeah.
Who eliminated the most, and then of course it'll be about them trying to kill each other. And I think that there might be some surprises in the Rumble besides them that we don't know, and there may be some other fun things that can really kind of help, make it something special. Go ahead.
That's probably the way that they'll keep everyone focused on the ring and focused on this, is by having it basically be an elimination competition between Bayley and Sasha, and then have them finish it off.
Mm-hmm. Either finish it off or eliminate each other,
mm-hmm.
and then whoever's left is left, because really, history tells us whoever wins a WrestleMania Battle Royal doesn't really mean anything. They just win a match at Mania.
Oh yeah, I agree.
So, I mean, whoever it may be, good job on you. But outside of that, it's just that's what it is. So.
Yeah.
We'll see. I mean, I think once again, this is about getting a little bit more spice into that matchup. I think they were a little bit worried that no one was going to care if it was just a bunch of random ladies and then, NXT superstars getting involved. And they probably wanted a little something to that match.
I get that, but honestly, if you had kept on building up the tension, I feel like people would have cared more going into the match, not knowing what was going to happen with those two. Mm-hmm. Rather than now everyone knowing, the only real storyline going into this match is Sasha versus Bayley.
Yep, and you're right. You're exactly right. All the suspense is gone, guys.
Yeah,
so.
Exactly. I mean, that's one of my biggest complaints about WWE just in general nowadays, is that they jump the gun on things way too quickly in order to either pop a rating or pop subscriptions or whatnot, instead of building suspense or letting a surprise happen. I have a bad feeling that we're not going to get a Hardy type moment with Braun or with Undertaker or whatnot at Mania. I mean, I said on the SmackDown review last week that they should have saved the whole Daniel Bryan thing until Mania. They should have had him suddenly come out as a big surprise partner for Shane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. That's something that's going to be interesting too. That equation, So I mean, suspense may not be there for some of these matches, and some of the others they definitely will be. I think one of the ones would have to be the cruiserweight division. Right? I mean, this may not be the biggest storyline for WrestleMania or the biggest matchup, but I think they're trying to keep us held on by their standards. And what we got on this episode of Raw, we got Drew Gulak and T.J. Perkins taking on two guys that'll be facing each other for the Cruiserweight Championship at WrestleMania, Cedric Alexander and Mustafa Ali. And so they had to be a tag team tonight, but even though they're not really going to be friendly after this, probably. We get a pretty good matchup. I think this was a decent match. They showcased the cruiserweights pretty well here, so I have no complaints about that. You do have Cedric Alexander and Mustafa Ali getting the victory. What was interesting about the end here is, you have the situation where Cedric Alexander, felt like he was going to get the win, but then he was notified that Mustafa Ali was a legal man. So Mustafa Ali got the victory. But in the end, both guys did get the victory as they kind of smiled at each other and played, hey, look at that. I'll see you in WrestleMania.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those types of feuds where it's like, first off, I liked the fact that we got the Cruiserweights back on Raw after them not being on for a month. It was nice seeing them back on regular TV. I mean, I'm fine with how they've been used on 205 Live. It's been getting better lately. But, I would like them to be bringing in more fans with the new style through Raw. And then in terms of this match, yeah, it was kind of, this is going to be, we may see a turn by one of them after the match. But going into the match, this is just going to be kind of a friendly competition of, who's better. And this tag team match kind of exemplified that by the blind tag by Mustafa Ali, and then him kind of getting the one up on Cedric and be like, yeah, I got the pin, not you. Yay me, I win.
Yeah. And the one person who didn't win out of this is TJP, because not only he get the lumbar check, he got the 054 splash. So that poor guy. Oof.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm so disappointed at how far he's fallen from, where he was at the beginning.
Yeah. They tried to give him some shine a little earlier this year, but he's going to be the one that takes these kind of pinfalls. You just know it. Drew Gulak is the guy that they've really put some shine on when it comes to just 205 Live. So I'm happy about that. He definitely deserves it, but TJP does kind of get the short end of the straw sometimes.
After this tournament's over, and I mean, I know they're not going to focus on storylines as much on 205 anymore, but we still need to get a few more PowerPoint presentations.
Yeah. I know, we miss those so much, don't we?
Yes.
Oh boy, it would be so nice to get that back. It makes me wonder if we will, because he's more serious. But it would be so great if we did get him again. Let's jump over to the Miztorauge. Yeah, they have a lot to say, especially the Miz. He kind of comes out and criticizes the Miztorauge, says that Bo Dallas needs to go back to catering, and let's be honest, Curtis Axel's not doing his job either. So as he's doing this, both guys are not really happy with Miz, but it doesn't take long for Seth Rollins to come down to the ring and really egg this thing on, and really teasing Bo and, trying to get him riled up. And, it doesn't take long before Bo says something that's really derogatory and basically says that, it's Miz, it's a fake A-lister, and not a fighter, not a good fighter. And so that makes Miz angry, and Miz kind of goes back and forth between Rollins and Bo Dallas, and it just looks bad. And Axel also gets a little upset when basically Miz says he's about to be the longest reigning Intercontinental title, better than all the other Intercontinental titles holders, including Mr. Perfect. So it looks like Miz is about to be in some big trouble. Finn Balor even comes down to kind of ramp this thing up even more. And then the attack takes place, but it is not Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel beating up on Miz. They both go after, Rollins and Finn Balor. So it was all mind games. This was what the Miz had set up. He even points to his head and says, "Yep, this is all us. We thought this thing up." And, of course, what happens from there is we get the Gallows and Anderson involvement, and they get involved and kind of clear the ring of Bo and Curtis Axel, leaving Miz to Seth Rollins and Finn Balor. And, of course, they do their thing. Rollins takes out Miz, and then Finn Balor takes out Rollins. And, This was fine. I think it was entertaining for what it was. We get the Miz stuff, normal thing going on Miz TV, and just riling the crowd up, getting the thing going. I feel like this was fine. There's a lot here. I wasn't blown away though. Brandon, I wasn't really just sitting there biting my nails, thinking, "Oh, this is so great."
I mean, maybe you saw through it a little more than I did, but I mean, I honestly thought, and this is the second time in a little over a month that I've been fooled. Well, a little more than 2 months now that I've been fooled. But yeah, it's shocking that like I was half expecting the Miztorauge to actually be legitimate and be like, yeah, we're done, we're sick of this. But first it was Alexa, acting like she was turning face, and now the Miztorauge acting like they were turning on Miz. So, I mean, I like this whole segment. It definitely was, continuing this whole mind games thing, and and like I said, it looked at first like Balor and Rollins had turned the table on Miz and were starting to play the mind games on him. But, Miz is the master manipulator now, and, so...
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. And no, I did not see through this. I'm right there with you. I thought it was going to be, well, Axel and Bo Dallas kind of saying, hey, we're done with this thing. Yeah. And then you really do at WrestleMania. It's all about Miz having to take care of himself. There's no worries about anyone else. And we were going to get a straight up, triple threat that was going to be none other than those three guys. There was no interference involved. But yeah. Now there's still that possibility, and I do appreciate the back and forth on the mind games. I do appreciate the fact that they did sell me on the fact that this team was breaking up, because everything they threw out there felt like the exact same things that you would have thought in your mind you would have heard as this Miztorauge breaks up. So good job on their part on that. I really felt like they did a great swerve, and to me, it means something. It means that they still have some future for this Miztorauge, at least for the short term. And it also screams to me that, we're going to have some more antics take place for The Miz. And, of course, what's going on with Finn Balor and Seth Rollins. I'm excited about the Intercontinental title and, of course, the matchup. And I think next week on Raw we'll probably have some more stuff kind of heat this thing up. But I think they did a decent job. I just don't know why. But I didn't sit there and think, oh, man, that was just an amazing, setup for this whole thing. I just kind of felt like it was good. It was really entertaining. Outside of that, I was not blown away, though. It's, sometimes The Miz really makes me happy, where I know you're not a big Miz guy, but I kind of am. So
yeah. Well, I think that's the difference in that, you were probably thinking, oh, damn, Miztorauge is going to break up, and, Miz is going to have a much harder time defending the title. Whereas, those of us who do not like The Miz was like, oh, yes, this is awesome. This is great. Rollins and Balor are turning the tables on Miz and, playing the mind tricks on him. And as a result, getting the Miztorauge to turn their backs on him and leave him completely defenseless. Obviously, that was not the case, but, it just the way they built it, they've been doing a good job lately. Like I said, first with Alexa at Elimination Chamber, and now with The Miz, they've been doing very good at this bait and switch style.
Mm-hmm. They really have. You're totally right about that, and I think for what we've got, it's at least positive. It's a good way of doing business, and so. I hope that they continue on with it, and I hope they can, lead us in many directions that we're not expecting. Because to me, it feels right when I don't know what's going to happen. When I know exactly what's going to happen, I am bored to tears, Brandon. I don't want to watch it. In fact, it makes me less excited to get on this podcast and talk. And, I didn't feel that way tonight, and I'm so thrilled I can say that. So.
Yeah, completely agree.
let's jump into some other stuff here. What's kind of cool is we get a little bit of Woken Matt Hardy on this show, despite the fact that Michael Cole does not like Woken Matt Hardy, letting it kind of be known on this show. And of course, Corey Graves is all about the Ultimate War, Ultimate Deletion, excuse me, the Great War and all that. I love the little highlight package about the Great War and everything and the Ultimate Deletion. And this Corey Graves goes through it, and you can hear Michael Cole just being very sarcastic. Then we have the little promo video where Woken Matt Hardy says that Bray Wyatt is no more, and that, he has now set his sights on the Andre the Giant Battle Royal, which, that's fine. I think, once again, there's not a lot here. We knew at WrestleMania, if it was him and Bray Wyatt, we would not be overly excited because we had seen Bray and Matt many, many times before this. So that was not going to be anything special. But what is even better about this is we have Woken Matt Hardy going into a Battle Royal that, is okay. But I think he kind of adds some spice because I think a lot of fans are behind him, and I think he's going to be something special in that Battle Royal, in my personal opinion.
I mean, while both Battle Royals are normally kind of just the throwaway, well, in the past just the Andre, but now I feel like the Women's Battle Royal will have the same fate. Where over the last couple of years it's just been kind of a throwaway of, these are guys that, haven't had anything going on to put them on the card for WrestleMania, so we're just going to toss them in as a way to get them on the card. And more often than not, it's on the pre-show. This year for both, and like I mentioned before, for the women's, it would have been much more intriguing going into it had they not done what they did tonight with Sasha and Bayley. But for the men, especially if they don't bring him back next week. And I know they normally don't do entrances for the Battle Royals at Mania, but in this case, I would like them to. A good way to kind of start building a story off of the Andre and actually make it matter is by having Jeff come out as a kind of surprise entrant in the Andre, and then have it be Jeff and Matt kind of clearing house, and maybe even later on having Bray come out as his reincarnated soul or whatever he's going to be moving forward with the Hardys, and then have the Hardys win the Andre, and that starts like a new stable within WWE of basically like what they had with Jeff and Matt in TNA with the obsolete mule and everything, except now it's Wyatt more so in the spot where Jeff was, and kind of have that whole have a whole Woken faction.
Yeah. You know what? And that would be great. I'll be honest with you. I think the best work we've ever seen from the whole Broken universe, and now it's the Woken universe, was when there was many people involved.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't just all about Matt. I think most people that have seen the stuff in TNA and now have kind of watched a little bit of it, what we've seen here in WWE, it just is a better showcase with everybody involved.
I mean, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and even with the fact that Senor Benjamin's not a character on in the live events and things like that, it does add something to those vignettes. And then, of course, adding even a Bray Wyatt like you're mentioning with a Jeff Hardy, I think to me it would feel great, and it would to me make a lot of sense.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. One thing I would like to see, I'm sure we won't see it just because WWE, in spite of itself, takes itself way too seriously, so I doubt we'll get this. But I would love to see Vanguard 1 just flying around an arena.
I'm glad you said that because I would love the Superdome to have him show up. And
Yes, that would
I
be
mean,
great.
yeah, think about it as he's trying to get someone or someone's about to eliminate him for Vanguard 1 to fly and just distract the guy before he gets eliminated. It'd be perfect,
That would be
right?
perfect. That would be great. But also, I would love to see. I mean, I don't know how much of the broken stuff that they have control over now. Um, but I would love to see Bray Wyatt come out to, it doesn't even have to be the exact same, but have him come out to a modified version, like kind of a mashup between the whole I fade away and classify myself as obsolete and his theme.
That would be awesome. I'll be honest with you. I think people would really dig it. Now, I don't know how much that they would love it if Bray was singing it.
Oh, it would be
Uh,
great. It would be hilarious.
it would be kind of fun. I could just hear him now. I define myself as obsolete. That kind of. I could picture it. Hey,
Or basically do what Rebby was doing for Jeff at first,
mm-hmm.
with either Jeff or Matt singing it for Bray Wyatt as he was coming out.
I don't doubt that would be really entertaining, and I think the crowd there at WrestleMania would love it.
Oh yeah.
But 2 weeks from then, you would not get the same response from maybe a different place. But I think WrestleMania, they would love it.
Oh yeah.
So
Well, I mean,
I
that's
hope
the thing. A lot, like especially with Hardy, some of the things that they do with them, you definitely have to save for bigger cities.
Oh yeah, you're totally right. Because I hate to say it, and I've gotten crap for it before on this show for saying things like this, but let's be honest. Some of the smaller towns, some of the places that are not, major metroplexes where you have ultimate wrestling fans, they just kind of are casual watchers and they don't understand a lot of the stuff that has not been a part of WB or just on Monday Night Raw.
Yeah.
So there's that, let's be fair about this situation. And I think that's where you got to be fair. And I think you're right. A lot of that stuff will be saved for Chicago's, the New Yorks, the, wherever.
LA.
So LA, Philadelphia, all those places. So. But yeah, I mean, so that's what's going on here for at least Woke and Matt Hardy. We'll be seeing him, pretty soon. I'm sure even another appearance probably next Monday Night Raw. But let's talk about something else that's pretty interesting. Let's talk about Braun Strowman. He comes out to the ring, and it doesn't take long for the bar to follow suit, and they want to know who Braun Strowman's partner is going to be at WrestleMania. Braun does not want to tell them because he says, look, you guys are just a bunch of whiny babies. Why do you care? And Sheamus still says, we want to know. He says, well, if you want to know, Sheamus, if you beat me, I'll tell you. Let's just cut to the chase. That doesn't happen. Braun wins this match, as all of us would predict. So I think this, is at least a little bit, moving forward, I would say, in this feud. And they don't give away, the whole thing of who the partner is. And I don't know, Brandon, I think you brought up last week, it would be kind of cool if they waited till WrestleMania, and I could see that.
I think I already see, especially if they go with my idea of waiting until WrestleMania, the best way to handle this now, since you already started it, is have Cesaro try to step in and beat Strowman on his own in order to coerce him into naming his partner on the Go Home show next week. And then Strowman obviously wins, and as a result, you do not get the revelation until WrestleMania. Granted, if the rumors are true and everything, the revelation, maybe it would kind of be better overall, especially considering what he does. It kind of would be better to reveal it now. But if they have something different planned and they have some special person, either a call-up or, someone coming in that, is unknown, then yeah, this is the best way to do it.
Yeah, I think just that suspense we just mentioned not long ago is the best way to get people really interested in finding out who it could be, and it's got to wait till WrestleMania, and people are going to be excited about it. And I think really what we're going to see next week on Raw, since they had Cesaro last week, this week Sheamus, I think they're going to allow both of those guys to get in the ring and try to see if they can beat up on Braun Strowman, maybe tear him down a peg before they actually have him come in and just be equal with some other partner. I think that's probably what's going to happen. Who knows, though? We're going to wait. I just really, really feel that way. I think you were right about that, and I'm excited. I really, really am. We've thrown around some names, and if Samoa Joe wouldn't be as a killing force, I would be loving to say his name, but I think really it's going to be someone smaller. It just makes more sense. Wouldn't it be awesome? Let's just be honest. It could happen. Drake Maverick.
That would be interesting, but I mean, I'm just hoping that, all of this anticipation and suspense, especially with, obviously he has to do his whole shtick beforehand anyway. I really hope that this isn't all just leading up to Elias, coming out as his partner.
Which you could. I mean, who knows if it could, and that would be kind of a neat little situation for the fact that those two guys, have had it out for each other. But it would make some sense because Elias, definitely does a great job on the mic. It'd be so much fun to see those guys together. We do, of course, have some Elias talk on the show. Elias is in the ring and does his normal stuff, with the fans and just kind of really doing that until they have the matchup with him and Rhino, where Elias does beat Rhino. No surprise there. He even beats up on poor little, what's his name? I can't even think of his name now.
Slater?
Heath Slater, thank you. So he hasn't done anything.
No,
I can't remember his name. I'm like, my God, what's that little redheaded guy's name?
It's kind of funny. I think it was on... No, I think it was on NXT this past week. You and I were talking about all the mashup tag teams because of Strong and Pete Dunne. And I was trying to think of another mashup tag team, and that was the one that I was forgetting about because they haven't been on TV for so long.
Yeah, they really haven't. And, I love Heath Slater and all, but sometimes, I really don't think about him. And then I'm like, oh my God, what's his name again? Because it's just been so long since I talked about the guy. But yeah, I mean, this is a nice win for Elias. I think that's all this is. So, I mean, I don't really know what to say. I mean, we will be surprised if he's Braun Strowman's partner, or maybe not very surprised, but at least he'll be doing something at WrestleMania, and I really feel that's going to be the case. He'll be doing something at Mania.
Oh, yeah, he'll definitely be doing something, but I just think it would be a big disappointment for a lot of fans if they went through all this work of, who's going to be Braun's partner just for it to be Elias. I would definitely like it to be someone... I mean, they talked about, Lashley re-signing with WWE. There haven't really been any other big names that have been talking about either re-signing or, signing with WWE. But, you can definitely do something with it. Hopefully. But let me just go back real quick. Did you see that Elias Snickers commercial?
Oh, that was great. They had me, man.
They had me too. I was like, oh, Elias is coming out. And then, nope.
I thought, honestly, it looked like that he was in a car, the way the lighting was.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, okay, so what's going to happen? What are they doing? And then Snickers, I'm like, oh, my God, that's crazy. So, good job on them.
Yes.
And hey, good job on Elias. He made some money off that. He did.
Oh, yeah.
So, let's talk about another match that I don't think really needs us to really talk a lot about it. Gallows and Anderson beat up on the Miztorauge. That's really just what happens here. It's a kind of a filler match, if you ask me. They had some decent back and forth here. I mean, not that the Miztorauge looked bad, but I mean, it was just an okay match.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. There's not really anything to talk about, is there?
Yeah.
So let's move on. Let's
Yep.
talk about John Cena and Kane. Now that's a matchup that we were kind of curious about, only for the fact that we're wondering if we're going to see Undertaker. Kane really is not the relevant thing here, right? I mean, it's just about when do we get to the Undertaker part of this? Well, we have to wait a little bit. We have to wait to this match, and this is kind of it's what I think is a no disqualification match,
Yep.
if I'm not wrong. And they get their stuff going, and Cena's trying to do his best to taunt Undertaker, right? He's doing all his best impressions of Undertaker, and they go through some of the hardcore parts of this match. It does end in an AA for Kane through a table. John Cena stands tall. Okay, that's kind of what we expected. And then, of course, post match, we have John Cena running down Undertaker once again, saying, "Look, at least give me an answer. Give me a yes or a no. Silence is not an option here." Nothing happens. So we will have to wait another week to see if Undertaker happens or if we have to wait till WrestleMania. But right now, still no word from Taker, and Kane is not, no longer a problem for Cena.
Yeah, I mean, like I talked about last week, especially after this week, I have a feeling that this is going to go until Mania. And it's going to be a situation of Cena, coming out and, going and taking his seat and then Taker's music suddenly hitting. Does it make a lot of sense? No. But, at least it'll be something that'll get people, hopefully tuning in and saying, oh, will it happen or won't it? So, it's another one of those, bait and switch type of things that hopefully will draw some eyes. Because I like seeing stuff like that. Again, I hope they do it correctly. I know we can't get a Hardy type situation every year, but, it's nice to think about, those types of surprises.
It sure is. And, there's going to be, those fun moments at WrestleMania that, people are going to be really excited about. And then it's the whole thought of, what is the surprise with Undertaker? Is it going to be big or is it going to be the old shtick and things like that, right?
Yeah.
And that's what my biggest concern is. Are they going to reveal it next week? That way we can walk into WrestleMania and kind of have an idea what Taker we're getting? Or are they just going to really delay it? They're going to have some lightning flashes and maybe some words on the screen that says yes. I don't know what they're going to do.
I think either we'll get a definitive answer and get him showing up next week, or we will get nothing and it'll be the suspense going into Mania.
Which I hope it's the latter.
I hope it's the latter too. But
yeah.
I mean, considering WWE's track record over years past, I mean, granted, we did get the Hardys last year as a big surprise, but that was a little different because they were in another company the night before. But considering their track record with like Royal Rumbles over the last couple of years, I have a bad feeling we're gonna get an answer next week. But we'll see.
Yeah, we will. And I'm still saying I would love it if they do it at Mania, where you have John Cena sitting out in the crowd where he bought his ticket, he's eating his popcorn, just kind of relaxing, just kind of watching the show, high-fiving the kids. And then we have Kid Rock performing on the stage, just some random trashy song that he has. And then all of a sudden he goes into, the Undertaker theme. And then, Undertaker's just sitting behind him in the Coke and pours it over Cena's head and they fight.
That would actually probably be the best way for them to handle it, except for him suddenly appearing behind him. I would have it be where, they kind of show Cena, takes his seat early on, like maybe even during the pre-show, with him assuming that he doesn't have a match, and then kind of show him throughout the night. Show him, interacting with fans, stuff like that, acting like a regular fan. And then from there, like you said, during, because we're all assuming, considering he's going into the Hall of Fame, that Kid Rock will be the special musical guest. And then like he plays one of his songs or whatnot, or however many songs, and then he goes into the Undertaker song, and suddenly Undertaker comes out from the entrance, and then you get a shot of Cena being like, "Oh my God, he's here!" and then jumping over the barricade, and we get a match.
Yeah, something like that to me, it would mean a lot. I think it would be something that people would be like, all over Twitter, right? Saying, "Oh, we're getting it. We didn't think we were going to get it, but we are getting Cena versus Taker." And I don't know how much that means to somebody who's sitting on their couch getting those tweets, and they're going to all of a sudden go hurry and subscribe to the network or what. But I think that the tweets will definitely mean a lot to WWE, especially for the fact that they love social media and all the attention that they can get from it. So it could be very well that case. But I still think it's 50-50. I could definitely see them next week on Raw, the lightning striking, Taker shows up, or something to the extent of Undertaker giving a yes to this matchup. So
I'm hoping for a surprise, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Well, I think that pretty much rounds out our show. I think we've covered every single thing that Raw had to offer tonight. So that means we got one thing left to do, and that is give this bad boy a rating. What did you give this one, Brandon?
I'm going to give it a 7. It was kind of a tale of two shows. It was, a few really good segments or matches. The whole Braun, or the whole Brock and Reigns thing at the beginning of the show. You had Miz and Miz, Balor, and Rollins in the Miztorauge. That whole thing on Miz TV in the middle. And then you had Cena, Kane, and the anticipation of if anything's going to happen. And the fact that it was a good hardcore match, which was surprising because they didn't even announce that it was no DQ beforehand. So that was a little nice surprise. But then between all of that, it was kind of just bleh. It was, nothing really felt important, and, just being 2 weeks away from Mania, that's kind of scary.
Yeah, that is scary, and that does bring up some concerns, but I really feel like they're going to try to answer some of those concerns next week. I think they're going to try to bring up some of the things that the fans are either questioning, or maybe for what they're understanding that, people are wanting to know, and that could be the case here. So There's lots of stuff still to come into fruition and everything, and I think you're right on the rating. 7 was part of where I sit as well. I think that they gave us enough here for us to really get pumped about some of these feuds, and then the other ones, like I said, we'll be waiting to see if they can do it in 1 week. But what we're understanding is that WrestleMania is going to be big, and they're really promoting it really heavily for all these giant matchups, and I think in this episode they did a good job of heating things up for some of these feuds in a positive way. They didn't stall out on some of these. I think for good reason, they really progressed the storyline. So fairly good show. I think it's one that if you plan on watching WrestleMania, you need to check out if you haven't watched it yet. And that's pretty much rounds out this entire show. So there's a couple things before we get out of here. Make sure you come check out Brandon, and along with Harry and Liz for SmackDown Live and 205 Live this week. They're going to do an amazing job, as always. I love listening to their shows, and they do a great job. Make sure you go check those out tomorrow night after SmackDown at 205.
It will more than likely just be myself and Liz tomorrow night, because I think Harry's going to be at the show tomorrow.
Oh, awesome. Well, hey, that's cool, too. So I'm glad Harry's going to get a chance to go do that. That's really cool. So yeah, definitely go check them out. And of course, don't forget NXT this following Thursday. You'll definitely want to check that out. It's going to be a lot of fun. So make sure you check us out on W2Mnet.com or wherever you get your podcast from via the W2M Network. Make sure you subscribe, rate, review of the W2M Network. Don't forget to go do all that great stuff. Anytime you give us those 5-star ratings, you give us an opportunity to share this with everyone else out there. And hey, when you give us a review, we get to know your feedback, what you want on this show, what you don't like, or what you love. We want to hear all that. Give us all the feedback you can. And of course, once again, once you subscribe, you get us all the time. You don't have to go search for us. You have us in your dock, ready to rock and roll. And once more, Formula1Mania.com and LastOneProWrestling.com. Don't forget them. They support us. Go support them. And W2Mnet.com is, of course, the place where you can find every single thing that we do and all the other great podcasts that they have to offer over there. So make sure you go check them out now. Well, Brandon, it's been fun. For now, we have to get out of here. So for myself and Mr. Brandon Biskobing, we will catch you guys down the road.